from her father, who wanted her to get married and have children, she traveled the world to rid herself of all proper Southern behavior. She's known everywhere for her books, Living as a Subversive Southern Woman, Use Sparklers to Burn Your Bra, and The Well-Crafted Venom of a Southern Woman. She recently received a call from an internationally known TV show producer who's ready to create a 16-episode TV series, and the show's sure to be announced as one of the most anticipated shows of 2024. Keep an eye on the news for more information. Welcome to the stage, please, Cora Newcomb with Fish Camp.
Hello. Yes, I am from South Carolina. I am so happy how all the Texas people are supporting this festival, but I better get on with my story. So I grew up in Beaufort, South Carolina. Now, Beaufort County, Beaufort, first of all, is on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, is somewhere between Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. So that gives you some idea of kind of where it is. So, grew up on the Atlantic Ocean in Beaufort, South Carolina. Beaufort County has 65 islands in that county. And most of those islands are not connected by bridges. Most of them are connected by waterways, rivers, creeks, bays, sounds, whatever, all kinds of waterways. And so to travel in a large part of the county, you have to have a boat. Well, if you have a boat, a lot of people, especially the locals who've been there forever, have fish camps. Out of one of the islands, out of one of the inlets, you'll have a fish camp. Now those fish camps are actually probably like fish shacks, because usually they're built with whatever material you can get out there on your boat. But it gives us a way to get out there and, you know, have a party. Fish during the day, fry up some fish, drink some cold ones, and just have a good party time out there for the weekend. Because that's the only way to get out to most of the islands that are out there, is out by boats. And you need a little shelter while you're out there. So one weekend, my brother and some friends, we went out there to the fish camp, and we're fishing in the morning, and it was one of those beautiful, beautiful days. Oh, there's something I forgot to mention. The storms. Because we're on the islands, because we're on the Atlantic Ocean, we have those storms that can come up those rivers and those inlets just like that and change the weather instantly. So anyway, we're out there on the fish camp. We're having a good time. We caught some fish in the morning. We fried it up. We were sitting around in the afternoon having a couple of cold ones and telling stories, which is all about being at the fish camp. And all of a sudden, we saw one of those storms coming up the river. Big black cloud moving fast, moving like a freight train all the way up that river. And we knew it was coming, and it was coming fast, and we needed to get in the shelter. So we all just went into the shed. They're not gonna last long. You know, those squirrels, they just come through and they pass and they go on. And so we just wanted to get out of the rain. And so we all went in the shed, and we're sitting there waiting, watching the storm just barreling down the river. And all of a sudden we saw Sully. Sully was still out in the river fishing. I don't know, maybe he drank a few too cold ones or something, but he's not paying any attention to the storm. This wind is blowing like crazy, and he comes on. We're like, Sully! Sully! We're trying to get him to get out of the storm. Well, our voices are not going toward him because the storm is coming toward us. But finally he looks up and he saws that storm, and it's right on top of him. And so he starts running toward the shack, the fish camp. But just about the time that he got halfway to the camp, a big clap of thunder happened. Boom! And he jumped up, and his head hit the pot that the Earl had been in, the grease had been in where we'd been cooking fish earlier that day. Now it wasn't hot anymore, but it was full of cooking oil. And that pan went up in the air, flipped a couple times, and came right down on Sully. He was the slickest looking guy I've ever seen in my life. Totally covered in oil and grease. Well, that storm was like a cyclone. It just jumped over some pine trees. Sully's sitting there still like dripping in grease, looking at the storm coming at him. The cyclone just jumps right on top of him, and we all shut our eyes because we did not want to see what was going to happen to Sully. But then we opened our eyes and we were amazed at what had happened. What had happened is that Sully was so full of grease that cyclone couldn't even catch hold of him. That cyclone went down over him, got really tight, pulled right up, it pulled Sully off the ground, and Sully just slid back down. That cyclone got really big at the bottom, and he blew it, and then came right up trying all kinds of different things to catch hold of Sully and pull him out of there. But every single time that cyclone would get him off the ground, Sully would just slip back down again. Well, we didn't mean to be laughing because it was probably going to be, he might have been getting hurt. We didn't know. Well, all of a sudden, I saw this cyclone turn plum pale. I ain't never seen a cyclone turn pale before, but this one did. It shot out of there and laughed. Well, we went out there because Sully's laying on the ground at this point, so we went out there to get him, to bring him up, and all of a sudden that cyclone was coming back. Well, we just ran back into the shed, and that cyclone came back. It's all brown, and it's making all kinds of grinding noises, like it's grinding its teeth or something because it's so mad. So it comes over and it gets back on top of Sully and starts going around and around. That cyclone had gone out and gone down the river, picked up 50 gallons of sand, and came back over there and was sanding all that grease off of Sully. And it went round. Yeah, it's funny now, but it wasn't then. So he came down and it's like going around and around like a humming top, gets all that sand off of Sully, picks him up and carries him over to the next island. We can see it, it's just right over there, and drops him on the beach. Well, we were like, oh my gosh, we gotta go find him. So we get in the boat and we zip over there, and Sully's okay. He's a little shaken up. He's got some burn marks on him, a little sandy, kind of like a good tan maybe after a while. But he looks up at us and he goes, it never is good to fool with a cyclone. And we're like, yeah, that's true. But I'll tell you one more thing, however, and that is that was nothing like the one that Red Mitchell had to run into. There was another time, I'm telling you, those storms that come up the beaches, Red Mitchell was out in his backyard. He had a big table. He always had one there. We do a lot of fishing and a lot of cooking fish. And he's about to cut up this fish, and all of a sudden the cyclone comes up. It grabs those fish, turns it inside out, threw that fish on some fence post, went over there and chopped that fish up, went there, and you know, Mom Miller always has a big barrel of cornmeal in her back porch, just in case she feels like doing some fishing or frying some fish. That damn storm went over there and took that fish, dumped it in that cornmeal, pulled it up, hit it with some good hard lightning, and that fish turned the most beautiful shade of brown fried fish you've ever seen in your life. Took it over there to Mary Pickens' porch and laid that fish on a blue platter she had sitting out there. Everybody came and had some fried fish that day. And if you don't believe this story, you can go to Beaufort and you find Mary Pickens, and she still has that platter. She hung it over her fireplace because that was a really special day that we had some good fried chicken that day. I mean, fried fish. Thank you.